I mean, but just to think about what it meant to us as this fringe thing that we did that wasn't that cool then, that was in some ways mocked by other kids in our bands and other things we did, and, you know, eliminated a lot of other stuff in our lives that we couldn't do because we had to be free every weekend. You know, it just a very different age than now, you know. Having surprise success in 81 was such a, I don't know, a cap on it all, for a lot of us that had endured a lot through that time, you know, not only management, you know, I'll say that from those guys that can't speak for themselves, you know. I mean, I'm sure for Tom Jacobides, us winning something on the level of the US Open in 81 was the best thing that ever happened to him, in that manner that he had made this thing happen.
Like you're talking about experience and some of the, you know, the issues that we're running into. We had a lot of people in the horn line that really didn't have experience playing the horn. And sometimes, you know, people were just given a horn, told play. Very young people. And then you're talking about the staff and everything. And I'm telling you, with such a small staff and everything that we accomplished that year was absolutely, I mean, it's just phenomenally amazing that you could take kids and have this bunch of people. And you're talking about intonation. I don't think so. If you listen to those tapes and everything, and you're talking about kids who have never played before.
You are talking 100% about true old school drum corps. Yep. You know, and, you know, as a multi-generational drum corps person, from my grandparents doing it, to my parents doing it, to my brother and I doing it, to my daughter doing it, to being a musician for 32 years, I can tell you that, you know, you hear the old school people talk about, you know, oh, drum corps is nothing like it, you know, blah, blah, blah. You're talking old school. That was to get the kids off the street. Isn't that why the Police Boys Club even did it to begin with? I mean, you know, it's time to go back to some of that. You talk about the majority of the people not knowing how to play an instrument that you'd put them on. And then let's talk about the fact that you're playing in the key of G. So even if you were a brass person, you still were starting at square one. So, you know, the learning curve that we created at Bluecoats, that was extraordinary. It really was.
We're very small in 80 and became very large in 81, and had to micromanage that 128 kids with a staff of literally 7 or 8 that entire summer. I mean, how did we get so big? I mean, it wasn't just Mansfield.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
That drum corps was.
You had Marion, and you had Youngstown.
Yep.
Cleveland.
And Akron, and, you know,
Yeah, we did manage to pull from everywhere.
There was a corps in '83, and Kevin Armbruster asked me to come back in '83 and join the brass staff. By that time, I was out of college. I was living in Canton. I was a school teacher, and it seemed like the thing to do. It seemed like that would be kind of a fun thing to do. And we had some rehearsals. We had a fair number of rehearsals throughout January, February, and March. And then I don't, Tom Giacomedes must have still been involved. Art must have still been involved. But all I remember from back then is that we just couldn't get it together. We had, a full drum line, some kids in the color guard, and 40 horn players. And back then, that wasn't seen as viable. And so the decision was made again, like it was in '79, to not come out in '83. And then it was in 1984 when Ted Swallow came about, and Ted Swallow immediately was drawn to the staff that was around in '83, which was Kevin and Dennis Hicks and myself and Jeff McVan and Renee Armbruster and people like that, who were involved in the '83 Corps, who were all veterans of the Drum Corps. Ted saw that as a good nucleus for a staff to restart things in '84.
We were really just trying to build relationship in the community and build a relationship around the Corps and rejuvenate that passion for the organization again. And so the majority of the staff was local. I did, I reached out to George Zingale and Mark Sylvester, and I had them provide me with some reviews and suggestions. Every show that I saw them, I had them sit with me when the Corps performed and make those kinds of recommendations. And so those are the kinds of things that we were trying to do in the background, but as a really, really young organization, not wanting to spend that kind of money to hire somebody like that, at least not at that point in time, it was important to rely on those resources that we had relationships with at the time.
The legendary story goes that in 1984, following in 1983, that there were so few people that showed up that the kids just ended up playing basketball in the gym. So Bill, Kevin, tell me, you guys part of that story of the playing basketball in the gym?
And yeah, it started with very few people involved. But that's when we really started to rely on the members themselves to be our best recruiters. And so we went from that basketball story to turned out to be a positive experience for them. And we said, hey, bring 2 or 3 or 10 of your closest friends back with you to the next one. And they did. And so we were able to just gradually continue to grow the Corps that way, from very small beginnings to what at that time was a decent size.
I was playing basketball with them, and it was important to really, it wasn't about a student-teacher relationship at that point. It was, can we befriend these kids to the point where they want to come back and they had fun and they see what we were hoping for, and are they willing to bring a friend and that kind of stuff. So we just, did whatever we could to make them enjoy their time that they spent, so they didn't feel like it was a waste of their time. So even if it was us just playing, we did some horn stuff, taught them a few things and showed them what it's like to be able to play together and to play, with some volume and to feel that sound all around you, even as a small line of, 10 kids or whatever it was at that point in time. And then just, play basketball and hang out and eat together. And, we were hanging with these kids, just trying to get them to realize that this is a great way to spend your time.
So what was the challenge in getting that 1984 season up and running?
Teaching kids how to do the activity, because none of them had done anything like that before. And in a lot of ways, we, the instructors, had never done anything like that before either. So it it was the proverbial building the airplane while it was flying kind of feeling, in that we were trying to teach them how to live on the road and sleep on a bus and roll out your sleeping bag on the floor and rehearse all day and be good at night and then travel all night to go. We had to teach them how to do all of the lifestyle having to do with all of that, and as well as teach them, the performance aspects of it. And that it really was building it from scratch. We started with nothing, literally started with nothing, to build into what it became.
So tell me, how do we go from 27th to 15th, and then in 1987 making top 12?
The infusion certainly was Larry Hirschman himself. When he came in to that very first camp that we would have held at the beginning of the '86 season, he came with a level of organization for which we were unaccustomed. As far as just knowing that running a drum corps was a lot more than just rehearsing and doing shows. For those of us who were teaching at the time, other than Kevin, who marched Lancers, the rest of us, the Bluecoats were the best corps we'd ever been in. And so Larry was able to bring an organization to all of that, to organize the rehearsals, not just start at 1 and end at 5, but to actually have a plan, and to have an organized plan for the designing of the show, and an organized plan for the hiring of the designers, and an organized plan for putting the tour together. Larry was able to do that.
It was probably the most amazing ride I've ever been on.
Honestly, the pinnacle of certainly my drum corps career, but honestly, it's probably one of my top 5 moments in my life was semifinals. I mean, we were absolutely on fire that night. I mean, we totally peaked at the right time. And just the energy from the field to the stands and back and forth it was off the charts. So that was something I'll never forget. I mean, it is an absolute treasure for me and my drum corps experience and my Bluecoat experience.
Just, it didn't compare to really anything at that up to that point. It was an amazing, unreal perspective. We believed in ourselves for years, and we believed in the kids for years, and we believed in the program for years. But to finally be recognized by the judging community, and not necessarily the crowds, because the crowds were always very supportive of us. That year that we were able to march into the stadium on finals night, it was just an amazing journey. What a climax to an amazing journey. I stand up there in the crowd with the rest of the staff, just being engulfed by the crowd at semifinals and finals. It was just outrageous. And it just was a culmination of many, many years of a lot of sweat and a lot of love and a lot of friendships to get to that point.